So we are working on parts of a right triangle. Just kind of overviewing, or reviewing, I guess I should say, right triangles. So if you look at my parts up here, each of my sides, A and B, are my legs. Those are the legs of your right triangle. Across from my right angle is my hypotenuse. That is always going to be side C. A and B are kind of interchangeable, but C always has to be this one across. The Pythagorean Theorem. We love it, we know it, we're great at it. It's used to find the missing side when you're looking at right triangles. In case you forgot the formula, it is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I worked out this first problem just to kind of give you a nice foundation. So I labeled both of my sides. This is my side A leg, this is my B leg, and always across from my right angle is my side C. So if I'm going to follow the formula that I have up here, I'm going to say a squared plus b squared, and I don't know c, so I'm just going to leave it as c squared. I'm going to type 8 squared plus 7 squared in my calculator. When you type that in your calculator, you're going to get 113. Because I still have c squared, I have to take the square root of both of those, both sides of my equal sign. Remember, if you do it to one side of the equal sign, you have to do it to the other. So that gives me, as an answer, 10.6 for my C value. If you want to challenge, pause the video, see if you can figure out 2. So next, I'm going to label my sides again, A, B, across from my angle is C. A squared would be 15 squared, plus B squared would be 18 squared, equals C squared. I'm going to type 15 squared plus 18 squared in my calculator. That would give me 549. So C squared is equal to 549. Now to figure out what C squared is, I'm just going to take the square root of both sides. And that would give me a C value of 23.4. Now if I look at number 3, let's zoom back in here. There we go. If I look at number 3, I'm still going to label my sides. Short leg is going to be A, but now I don't have B because across from my right angle is always C. So that means this 13 is C. My unknown is going to be B here. So here's what I'm going to do. Before I even do anything, I'm going to change my formula to work for me. So normally my formula is a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? But this time I'm looking for b squared. Well, I'm looking for b, but that means I've got to move this b squared somehow. So before I do anything, I'm going to say a squared. I'm going to subtract b squared from both sides. I'm going to say a squared is equal to c squared minus b squared. Then to get a squared by itself, I'm going to subtract c squared. So that gives me a squared, sorry, brain fart, a squared minus c squared equals negative b squared. Now I don't want any negatives. So I'm just going to kind of change my order here. I'm going to divide it all by -1, and I'm going to move my c squared first. That's going to give me c squared minus a squared is equal to b squared. So now I've got this really great formula that I don't really have to do anything except plug my numbers into. So I've got c squared, 13 squared, plus a squared, minus a squared, which would be 6 squared, gives me b squared. Now I'm going to put the 13 squared minus 6 squared in my calculator. That should give you 133 is equal to b squared. Take the square root of both sides. That should give you a b of 11.5. Now these things are interchangeable for A and B. So that means, oh, going the wrong way. That means when I do number 4, I still have C. And I'm going to call this side B and this side A. So I've still got my A squared and my C squared. So to get B squared, that would be C squared minus A squared. I'm going to plug in my numbers, and then I'm going to put it in the calculator. B squared equals 30 squared minus 25 squared. When I type that in my calculator, that gives me, let's type it. Oops, wrong button. That should give me 275. Now that I've got B squared, I'm going to take the square root of both sides. So B should equal 16.6. Remember, you're going to round to the nearest tenth, which means 1 decimal place. Now I'm going to do the same thing for number 5 and number 6. Same process over and over and over. I need B squared again. I'm going to do 20 squared minus 12 squared equals B squared. I put that in my calculator. That should give me 256 is equal to B squared. Then I'm going to take the square root. That should give you 16 is B. For a challenge, pause it, see if you can find out number 6 without my help. Okay, so looking at number 6, I've got B here, A here, and across from my right angle, C. I'm going to use the same formula I have been, so 49 squared minus 44 squared equals B squared. Now to figure that out, I'm going to type it in the calculator just like I have been. So I'm going to do 49 squared minus 44 squared. That should give me 465. Now to get B by itself, I'm going to take the square root. The square root of 465 is 21.6. Remember, round your decimal to the first point, but make sure you're paying attention to rounding your numbers. After this, you've got your practice problems on page 4. You've got these up here. If you need help, please contact your teacher.